Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to What is American to You. I'm your host, Derek Dempsey. Okay, before we start the show, give us a subscription. We need you to subscribe to our channel over here. We really need it right now. And right in the center here, you got like and dislike. Give us a like, no thumbs down. Okay, our show today is great. We have a man who would like to consider a legend and an iconoclast, so much so that he has been Simpsonized. Ron English features in the episode Exit Through the Quickie Mart. Also, his artwork has been used on album covers by Guns N' Roses' Slash, by rapper Chris Brown and the Dandy Warhols. His artwork has been used in movies by Seth Rogen, This Is the End, and by Morgan Spurlock in the classic Super Size Me. Also, in 2008, his painting Abraham Obama, which is a mix of Abraham Lincoln and Barack Obama, was used in the run-up to the elections, which some people reckon helped Barack Obama get elected. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the king of juxtaposition, Ron English. Ron, how you doing? I hope you weren't embarrassed by that introduction.
No, that was great. Thanks.
Good, thanks. Well, that's the truth. So before we start, I have a few things I wanted to ask you about. And you've got so much stuff because you work every day, and there's so much. I went through all interviews and everything, and I narrowed it down to a few things. We could do 20 interviews about your work. However, that would mean you would get no work done. So I know you work, right? I know you work every day, and you're working today on something?
Today I'm designing a kaiju toy. Kaiju is Japanese for monster, so that's kind of like a culture. And it has, I did a famous painting of the Rolling Stones' lips at one point where it's just two women and then they're kind of on top of each other and they form the lips. Yeah, so I'm incorporating that as the tongue, and it's it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of hard to do because you actually, it's easier just to sculpt it than to try to figure out from every angle what it's going to look like, because they actually do the sculpt in China or Japan, either one. But so I have to kind of figure every problem out and solve all the problems here, and then they just do whatever I tell them.
How many hours a day do you work? I know it's almost an inane question, but I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, maybe 8. I used to work about 15 hours a day, but I'm getting older, so. Well, I don't know. It's fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm working, I like to work like crazy, but there's times where I'm like exhausted. Sometimes you got to have some free time.
But I don't really do anything performance-based, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe like sometimes I do a lecture or something, but I don't know. It's a different thing.
It is, I agree. Traveling is very different.
I could paint in my pajamas if I wanted to,
Right, well, maybe I could gig in my pajamas if I can get a gig. I did once gig in my underwear, but we won't talk about that, maybe, right? That's scary. And a guy threw a chair at me on stage. Well, anyway.
It sounds like you're a very conservative fella.
I'm extremely conservative, but I am actually wearing underwear today.
You wouldn't have had underwear involved if you were a wild man, right?
That's true. I am a very conservative person. I have a question for you. What is the purpose of street art today?
Originally, street art came out of, it was a counter to graffiti, but we didn't sign our names to things. It was more about interventions in public and something that people could actually experience that was kind of addressing the space or something unexpected. I don't know what it is now. I mean, maybe it's not even really happening that much now because we're all like locked in our houses, but it did morph into something different. So now it just seems to be a commercial mural decoration kind of movement, where what the original thing that we were doing doesn't seem to be there anymore. Like my main contribution to street art, I think, was back in the early 80s and on, I started redoing billboards. So my idea was to take advertisings and then do like a counter to them, and then what I mean. So like, there's really no truth in advertising. What would it be like if there was truth in advertising? So my stuff was very political and it was kind of interventionist. But Coke's never going to hire me to say, drink Coke, it makes you fart. You know what I mean?
But this is what I love about I think you've been called the king of juxtaposition or something like that before, right?
They call it culture jamming, yeah.
Culture jamming, right.
You use the means that the advertisers or the corporations use to disseminate information, and then you hijack that same system. So you have the same credibility that that system lends them to give an alternative message.
Right. With truth in it. For instance, I would love to see an advert for shampoo, and some like guy comes on and he's average looking and he says, all right, our shampoo is not the best shampoo. I think we may even test an animal somewhere along the way. The bottle's kind of crappy looking. You're not going to lose your hair. It'll wash your hair. It won't make you a model, but it's good price. It's on sale and we got good distribution. Buy it. I think that would be the biggest selling shampoo in America within a month.
Maybe.
Right? Just honest,
I don't think people remember what you said in the commercial. They just remember the repetition of the name. So like the idea is, I'm going to go to the supermarket. I may have to make over 200 decisions inside the supermarket. So I can't give a lot of thought to every decision. I'm not going to read every label. I'm not going to do research on every product. So a lot of it's just kind of like, oh, I've heard of this before. I'll take it,
Yeah.
But you're making a decision fast. And it's also interesting because if you think about in the supermarket, every product is inside an ad. Like a box of cereal is an ad for that cereal. So that's their last chance to try to sell you, That's also something that I do that's kind of a part of the culture jamming world is I go into supermarkets and I add a whole bunch of new products that, aren't products that you would expect to see. So like in the milk section, I have human breast milk. And, I have this great footage of these two women, and I don't know, they're buying some chocolate milk, and then they reach to grab the one next to it, and they realize it says human milk. And they start screaming, and I think it's just so weird because I'm not really trying to tell you what to think about drinking human breast milk, but isn't it odd that that we're quite happy to drink another species of milk, but if you propose the idea that we could drink our own species of milk, it mortifies people.
Absolutely. Or to go off on that, no, to continue on that, we shoot people and we do crazy stuff in the world and people starve in the world. But dare a woman take her breast out to feed her child, one of the oldest things a human can do, and people are going crazy.
Oh, and they're also trying to hide behind the children because, what if the children see it? It's like, well, that's kind of like the first thing they probably see in their lives and the first thing they're actually interested in. So I think they've already been there, done that.
I'm a child. I'm still interested in them. I really am.
I could have a woman come in here and I could take a picture of her breast and I could cut the nipples off her breast, off the photo, and then put my nipples on there. Now suddenly it's just fine, but it looks exactly the same.
That's a good point.
Bizarro world.
I agree. I think that we have most everything in the world backwards, and not to go on because I have a habit of doing this. But we need to eat, we need to sleep, we need shelter, and we need to procreate. There's no taboo to the first three, but the taboo and the one that we have, we can procreate during famine. In Ireland's famine, in black slavery, in the Holocaust, and in many of these times where humans were down to 70 pounds, we procreated and produced children because we had sex. Yeah, sex is taboo. The most important thing in the world we do is taboo. That tells me the world is assways, backwards, and upside down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen movies where in the first 2 minutes of the movie there was a body count of over 50, and nobody cares about that. Nobody's like offended that the guy just shot 50 people.
I know. I know, it's crazy. I want to ask you about your Lenin as.
Have you ever been shot?
Say what?
Have you ever been shot?
No, I had a gun pulled on me in Moshulu Avenue. Have you been shot?
We should get somebody on the show that's been shot and had sex so they could say like what the difference between the two is.
That's a good idea. I bet you any money we would find somebody who was shot. You know Werner Herzog, the film director?
No.
Werner Herzog, he did Fitzcarraldo, and brilliant director. He was shot in Los Angeles back in the late 70s while being interviewed by a BB gun. And you know what he said? It's just a BB gun. Let us continue with the interview.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
Well, he understands the importance of fame, so.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about that. Ron, I want to ask you about your Lenin as Gandhi. You've got the famous picture of Lenin and Yoko Ono, probably from the late 70s, and Gandhi's head is on that. I know nothing about it, but it fascinates me.
I don't know anything about it either.
It wasn't me.
I don't know. I don't remember what I was thinking when I did that one. Maybe that Lenin is kind of like a Gandhi character, or I don't remember what I did a lot of that kind of stuff, and some of them kind of became well known. Like I did one of Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan meshed into one face. and
I
that
saw
one
that.
got rather famous. But yeah, I don't, nobody. You're the first person to respond to the Gandhi one.
Yeah, well, I like Gandhi, faults and all, and I love Lenin, faults and all. I just
Some
love them both.
doing stuff, and then like sometimes you don't know what's going to work. So I did another one with the Beatles, except John Lennon's missing, and then Yoko Ono's taking his place. I did another one. It's the Beatles, except who's the guy that
Michael
shot John?
Jackson's taking his place, right?
I did one like that too.
That's
Yeah. Well,
great.
when it Sergeant Pepper's one, but then I did one of Mark David Chapman, the
Yep.
killer. So yeah, so John's gone, and then he's taking John's place. So that was a really
Wow,
creepy one.
that's a heavy one right there.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Stuff that's really going to freak people out. I do these things called ad flags, where it's a gigantic American flag made out of like thousands of fake ads. So if I want to do something like super controversial, I found that if I can put it into that context, that it'll fly. But if I isolate it and put it on a billboard by itself, then people want to kill me.
Isn't
But
that
if
crazy?
you put it in the context of everything else, then it just feels like the cacophony of the insanity of the world is just another little piece in the puzzle, you know?
Yeah, I agree, and I get it. Okay, again, we could talk about a million things, which I want to, but I know we got to do the show at a certain space. I wanted to talk about Guernica because I remember the first time I saw Picasso's Guernica, I thought, and then I read what it was about, and it just blew me away, and it became one of my favorite paintings. But you said a great thing. You said Guernica for me is a modern template, just as the Madonna and Child is an ancient template. There are many templates in art, shells upon which the artist forges a vision, contributing to a shared cultural experience. Art existed long before the concept of the new, the idea of singular vision and intellectual property. So I approached the Guernica template cognizant and reverent of its meaning and the cultural significance. I don't know if you remember saying that, but it's worth quoting.
Yeah, like I think when the Egyptians painted, this is how you paint a person. You paint the hand sideways, and if you tried to like turn the hand a little bit so it had was more realistic, they would cut your hand off. So we covet the idea of an original thought, which I adore about us. But through most history, it's like you have to paint what somebody else has already painted because I want one of those. Do you know what I mean? You were a reproducer, not a creator. So the idea of the creator is, scarce.
And it's hard to be a creator, an original creator, because
Yeah.
people want what they hear on the radio. Right now, they want what's famous in movies. They want what they're comfortable with, what they've seen, and what they can spend their $3.99 on or $9.99 on, and be guaranteed to get what it is that gave them the first thrill.
Right. Yes. That's why franchises do very well.
Yeah. And that's a big thing now. Before we leave, Guernica is...
People that have new original content, it's super hard, And when I went into meetings, they like, you have more characters, more developed characters, fully developed characters than Disney. But the problem is, that everybody's ready to see Mickey Mouse. Nobody's ready to see Elfonka yet. They said like one day the whole thing will flip. When you've worn out all the old tropes, the person that has a treasure chest full of new tropes is. Basically, you could, with what I've already created, you could actually build an industry on,
Which is kind of what you're doing slowly, would you say?
Very slowly, yeah. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But it's like my last project. It's called Delusionville, and it's the story of all my characters and how they all fit together. And you played the Buzzard, the
right.
old rich old buzzard. Everything's upside down and backwards in Delusionville, and so the buzzards are kind of the kings.
Right. Which I think was just why I was attracted to it when I heard about it, and I was, by the way, honored to sing on it. You did 4 albums so far.
4, and we're writing a solo record for Joe Johnson. So he plays the old gray wolf, the original gray wolf that fell down the hole, knocked his head, didn't know he was a wolf, and was demoted to being a slave. And then we're doing another one with more characters again. So I don't know. It's a weird thing because, I mean, it costs a lot of money to constantly be running a studio, and I'm not sure if I'm just like a heroin addict or but I just so want this thing to happen. And I have this other career, and people just like, why don't you just do that? Like they'll actually pay you for that, but you just lose all your money doing this other shit. So.
You mean you lose all your money in the music?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
He's gonna sell it, we got our royalty check for like $11 or something for 4 records, or
You are preaching to the choir. Don't get me started on this.
Yeah.
But listen,
well, weird. My old assistant was in she married Gerard Way, and then so I was kind of hanging out with him a bit, and he was saying, well, if we had run this band My Chemical Romance in the '70s, we'd all be millionaires. But
Uh,
we're not. It's the music, it was like when you could really steal all the music on the internet and stuff. So I mean, there was, all you could do was do concerts to make money. But now it's even worse. Now you can't even do a concert. So
yeah. Well, look. Well, I've been a singer since I was 14. I was in a band by the time I was 15. I spent all my life pursuing a music career. I've recorded albums, singles, videos, written songs, written albums, had loads of concepts, and it's just one after another because you just can't get the backing unless you're part of the big 2 or 3 record companies. And in the last 20 years, I've done 250 shows a year. That's gone. So it's almost like every single last part of my career is gone. The same for Jessica. So many of us.
so what do you do now?
Sleep a little late. Well, this is a big thing right now that we're doing, and I'm trying to find a job.
How is this going? I mean, are you getting an audience, or how do you get an audience?
It started. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We just started and we're working on an audience, and with the people like you being so kind to come on the show, we know it's going to help.
Would you like me to say something very controversial?
I would say whatever you want, Ron. You always say good stuff. Yeah, please do.
I'm the rabbits are bigger than the Beatles. It's 3 B's, so yeah. Shoot me now.
Yeah, isn't it amazing that comment that John Lennon made, that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus? My comment is, not only were the Beatles bigger than Jesus, they existed.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a weird thing. I'm not a Christian, but I think I was raised a Christian, or maybe my dad wasn't, my mom was, I can't remember. And I like church, and I like the Catholic Church because they had art. Because I didn't know, I was from a small town, so I didn't know, how does one do art. But I'll be if I want to be in the church where they have art. But I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so my friend was in seminary, and he actually went to Rome and to the Vatican and stuff. And then one day, he said, "Look, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is just not me." And they're like, "Oh shit! It freaked you out when they said when we told you that there was no historical Christ." And this is what he's being told in the Vatican. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that was kind of weird. No, it's the no sex thing that fucking put me off it." But then I'm like, "Wait a minute, back up." It's like, in the Vatican, they're saying there was no actual Jesus Christ, that there was no historical figure that this is all based on. And you know what? That hurt me. I don't know why, because I bought into the idea that at least the person existed, and it meant something, and he was different than other people, or he brought something new to the table. So even me, I feel hurt that I think that shit. The Catholics don't even think he really existed.
Right.
So I understand that other people that have really bought into the mythology, like, they don't want anything to put them off it. You know what I mean? It just breaks your heart to think that it wasn't even true.
Well, here's how I see it, and I remember
Beatles either, so I don't think they really existed.
Probably not. Well, what was it? Paul McCartney died in 1968. We all know that. But here's the thing. You know Christopher Hitchens, the famous polemicist. Okay, he said a great thing when he was asked, "Why are you so like Aristotle? Why you can't really prove you existed?" And his take was, and I felt this because I said this. I don't care whether Aristotle existed or whoever it is from history that said great things. It's the words and the feelings that remain. So they say that if you break down what the historical supposed figure Jesus Christ said, it comes down to about 11 pages of the Bible, and the majority of it is pretty good stuff. So, the Sermon on the Mount, it doesn't matter if some weird motherfucker said that. It's what they said is good. So if he didn't exist, the message remains. Like Bart Simpson said some great things. Your characters in the Rabbits of Delusionville said some great things, and it doesn't matter that they didn't exist, because that idea came from somebody, and who it's attributed to, some magic guy that had a father that was a zombie that went on a cross and came alive, or just some asshole from that time, if you get my meaning.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is, like, the myth has changed, but first Jesus was the guy because his father was related to David. His father Joseph was related to David. He was a direct lineage of David through his father. And then when they're trying to get the Romans to buy the religion, you're like, we don't understand. It's like, like, our gods are like half God, half man, or whatever. Like, we don't get this. Just he's a preacher or whatever. We don't get it. And his lineage is some from king, but ours are half gods. It's like, and so, like, one guy, and they know who did it. They were just transcribing, and he changed Mary from being a woman of childbearing age to being a virgin.
Exactly.
So now Jesus is of half of God, except the problem is now he's not related to David anymore. You know what I mean?
The contradictions are endless.
The Jews, like what made him significant was he was from a great Jewish leader and he was descended from that. So that gave him some kind of credibility. And they were actually kind of hoping he would make a revolution for them. But then later, when the Romans kind of took over it, let's make it half God instead of related to David. David doesn't mean anything to us, but if he's one of the gods, that's cool. And then, but people don't care about that,
No. Well, you take a look at the Bible, and if 2,000 years, 50, whatever amount of years since the Bible became very famous, very famous, it's been on sale in shops. If you look at what it did to the Jewish people, it basically said they killed Jesus. And the Bible is full of white people, not a lot of black people going on there.
Yeah, I think that if Jesus was white, somebody would have said something about that, because he would have looked unusual. Like if people don't mention, they don't mention that he's married, but why would they? Because I'm not, you don't if you don't talk about so and so said some interesting things. Well, was he married? It's like, what? It's like interesting. Like that's not, most people are married. I don't know. It's not that interesting. What he said was interesting. We're writing down what he said. It's like, so the fact that they don't say whether he's married or not doesn't mean he was or wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they make such a big deal out of it. Same with the whole idea of bisexual, homosexual, whatever. I'd love to some proof to say that Jesus was bisexual or asexual or homosexual. It would be great, and it would sort a lot of these people who are it's against the Bible, against Jesus. I believe that the majority of persecution for women and gays comes from religion. I mean, I know I'm not wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, it's it is used for other purposes. I mean, people aren't really literalist unless it literally says what they want to say. But yeah, they will. You can use the text to do something else, and it's also a kind of a deferment thing. Because look, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. This is what Jesus said. So you can't be mad at me because I'm just following the word of the Lord. So it's so you can't get mad at me because I'm just following the word of the Lord. You got to be mad at the Lord if you want to be. It's an interesting trick to play on people.
And they do it in business. Like, look, I'm sorry, we got to let you go after 25 years. It's not my fault. It comes from higher up. It's handing the blame down. But my whole biggest take, and believe me, religion and what it does to the world is one of my favorite subjects. Jessica knows that. But I want to say this. Even if let's say I was wrong and I died and there was a God, I don't want to go into this heaven for a very simple reason. If there's a heaven and a hell, I couldn't be in this room having fun and being safe and knowing that in a room just nearby there were people burning alive and suffering. I just couldn't be happy. So I couldn't be happy in this paradise where this God or whoever this celestial dictator is telling us, oh, you were good, so you're coming into this paradise where there's angels and everybody dresses in white and you live forever and you meet all your dead relatives, who most of them we probably don't want to meet, and there's other people burning alive forever. You burn your finger for a second. I couldn't be there. I just couldn't.
Yeah, but after you're on fire for more than 3 hours, it's like you get used to being on fire.
Do you get a break? Do you think that you have a sleep break?
No, because the contrast would make you realize you're on fire, and then you would actually suffer. The break would make it more like you're suffering, because then you would recontextualize the feeling of being on fire. But after a while, you get used to the feeling of always being on fire for eternity.
So what about Satan? Is he on fire as well, or is he kind of off on the side, like in an office, watching everybody on fire? Do you think?
Oh, he's on fire. Yeah, he likes it. It feels good.
I love it. Okay, we could go on about this forever. What is it?
He was given the choice between listening to harps or being on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what was
harps? But also, do you know that one of the most interesting stories is, of course, the prodigal son. One son stays loyal, one son goes off and has a real life, and then the one comes back. And then when the guy comes back, he's they killed a little fatted calf for him or whatever, and then the other guy's like, "What the fuck? I stayed here and did what you told me the whole time." And then you get honoring him who left, and yeah, he went and experienced the world, dumbass. But the God has two sons. One is Satan, and one is Jesus. So Satan, I think he's condemned to hell for 100,000 years or something. I mean, there's that specific time that he's condemned to hell, and then he goes back and sits on the right hand of God, and Jesus sits on the left hand of God, and he will be the prodigal son because he did his own will. He did not do God's will, but he actually invented his own will, which is ultimately what you want from your children. You don't want them just to be by your side doing whatever you tell them. You don't want the obedient son, because at some point you want them to rebel and become their own person. So Satan invented the concept of being your own person and creating ourselves independent of God.
So he was the original rebel without a cause.
Right, but when he goes back to his father, that he will be more honored than the one that just got his ass kicked for him. Do you know what I mean?
I completely get it. I would prefer hanging around with him. I reckon he has a better sense of dress than Jesus.
Yeah.
But although there's probably a lot of red latex involved, I'm sure. That tail. Ron, I wanted to ask you this again. There's so many things about the Simpsons. You were in one episode, and we're gonna actually run a bit of the video as we're talking. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Well, I think street art, that was probably at the height of street art when it was a big thing, and they tried to pick 4 artists that they thought represented street art. So it was Shepard Fairey, Kenny Scharf, myself, and Robbie Canal. And they also tried to get Keith Haring's estate to have some of his stuff on the wall, but I don't know if they ever got that on the wall or not. But yeah, that was interesting. I'd met Matt before. I'd been to his house before. I brought Daniel Johnson, the singer, to his house one time, and Daniel did like a private concert for him. So, but no, he would come to my painting shows and things. So I think he had an awareness. He even came out with me liberating billboards one night. He didn't, climb on the billboard, but he sat in his convertible and watched us. So, well,
That's legend. When you said Daniel Johnson, I know we spoke a little bit about this briefly, but the Michael Jackson episode, I can't remember what it was, but he was contracted, so they could only use his voice. And he wrote a song, Happy Birthday, Lisa. And you could tell it was a Michael Jackson song, but it was said it was written by somebody else. But the figure of Michael Jackson was a big, heavy guy that was from a mental institution. And I say this with all respect. I felt that was like a tribute, a nod to Daniel Johnson.
I never asked him about that, but I thought the same thing when I saw it. And I did ask Matt, it's like, would you ever be able to get Daniel onto The Simpsons? He goes, I have tried and tried and tried, and nobody gets him. I'm the only one on the writer team that gets him. So he has tried to get him on. So maybe that was his way to kind of sneak him on.
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was brilliant. We are going to show the video.
Art lovers and Bart lovers. First of all, I'd like to thank the good folks at Springfield Arts Daily for setting this up.
Thank you for bringing us a fresh new voice.
Yes.
Yes.
As a graffiti artist, there's so many people to thank. People who build walls, nighttime, for being dark.
Hold it right there, Spray Candy Warhol. Bart Simpson, you're under arrest for tagging the town. This overdue artquake that taught us all a new way of seeing was actually a police department sting.
It was?
Yeah. You think people would be stupid enough to pay for something some amateur put on a wall for nothing?
Oh, no, indeed. Now, if I can just get my $3 million back.
No refunds.
But he just said the show was a sham.
Oh, it is. And I'm just a guy sitting at a table. The only thing that's real is a sign that says no refunds.
Earlier on, we talked a little bit about your art being used in Super Size Me. What's the name of that character?
Oh, MC Supersized. And basically, he's what would Ronald McDonald look like if he actually ate at the restaurant he promoted?
That's just the best. I mean, it's just so fucking good.
Like the late 80s, and yeah, this is a weird thing. Black people didn't eat at McDonald's. No, they were having problems with that not being their demographic, which it doesn't. And then they paid $2 million to some consulting firm, and the consulting firm came back and said, "Well, you have black people in the commercials," and they're like, "No." It's like, well, Jesus Christ, man! It's like, there you go. It's like you're not giving them any respect. You're not even putting them in the commercials. So then they actually kind of went a bit overboard and tried to, do a lot of the vernacular and stuff and try to be hip. And it seemed awkward and funny to me at the time. So I came up with the kind of the rapper MC Supersized and started doing fake billboard ads around New York, helping McDonald's kind of get more in the vibe or whatever.
Right. I think it's funny when. Sorry, I was just saying when you said about it was kind of awkward. It's funny, especially in the 80s when white culture appropriated black culture. For instance, dance lessons by white people that could barely dance given hip hop lessons. Funniest thing to see.
Yeah.
I can't dance. Don't ask me. I can't dance. Don't ask me. Merci beaucoup. That's a lyric. Okay. Also, the Lincoln thing. Okay. The Lincoln. What inspired you? It seems obvious, but I want to ask you what inspired you to juxtapose. You know what I'm talking about. Lincoln and Obama.
Well, it was I think it was just before, right around June. So Hillary was still in the running, and Obama, and I think Bill Clinton was saying, look, this guy Obama's got no experience, or they had their talking points. And then I got a call from the campaign. They said, look, we want to do eight print editions with 8 prominent street artists, because we think that what's going to tip the election is the youth vote, and we got to get them interested. They like you guys, they like what you do. And so first we did the prints. I think I was the 3rd person they asked, and so they said, hey, like on Monday, and they said, can you have something by Friday? And so kind of the discussion was that Obama didn't really have the experience, yada yada. But then I was thinking, how intertwined with Abraham Lincoln he was on so many ways. I mean, the obvious way of Lincoln frees the slaves or whatever, but also they're skinny intellectuals from New York. They're populist, or not New York, I'm sorry, Illinois. And then I put their 2 faces together, and then their eyes and their nose and everything just lined up perfectly, which never happens. And then I did first I did he had the afro, and I thought, okay, that now it's Obama because the afro's there. And then I put Lincoln's head on and just Obama's face. And then you kind of couldn't tell. It took you a minute. Even my neighbors who were artists came over and says, why'd you paint a picture of Lincoln? So they didn't see Obama's face. And then my wife says, just go with it, because it's better that it takes you a second to realize it's Obama. It gives you a moment. Yeah. So, and then what happened after that is I went up and did a huge mural of, well, I had a band back at the time called the Electric Illuminati, and we're on iTunes.
So, quick search on iTunes, Electric Illuminati.
The singer from the band says, you got to take that on tour. Let's take that on tour, like a rock show. And I said, oh, that's great, because I have 100 billboards all ready to go anyway, and we'll just go city to city. And he goes like, what are you talking about, 100 billboards? And I'm like, well, I have one that says, with John McCain says I want to get erected, and it's like a Viagra ad, and I have all kinds of great stuff, And he goes, no, we do one image. Because you confuse the fuck out of people, Ron. Like, you throw too much shit at them, and then they're just overwhelmed. We'll just do that image. And I said, well, at least can I do it in different colors? Like change the colors like Warhol style. He goes, okay, yeah, well, I'll slide with that one. So we took it to 10 cities, but thankfully the first city we went to was Boston. And a guy gave us a big wall across from a gallery. And so we just did this huge mural of Abraham Obama, in all my beautiful colors. And my crew, I went to bed, and then my crew stayed out all night, putting up posters of the same image, the black and white version. And the next day we took a picture of our mural, and we got in our car, and it's the 4th of July, so it's going to take us 12 hours to drive back to New York from Boston. So we're just trapped in traffic. And then the guy that gave us the wall, the guy with the gallery, called us up, and he goes, CBS, NBC, the mayor, the whole city's down here, they're freaking the fuck out because you assholes put the posters on the mayor's house. It's oh, because the guys I had with were, God bless them. It's they would do anything. But so by the time we got home, it had already been on the national news, and it was created a huge uproar. So that was great. Then it was easier for us to go to all the other cities because people knew that image. They'd seen it on TV, and they were excited to have it on their gallery or their walls or their billboards or whatever.
You were interviewed, I think, with CNN, and you said, I wasn't saying he's like Lincoln because he hasn't really done anything yet, but he could fulfill that role. Firstly, I love the fact that you said that, because I felt at the time, and I feel like this about all elections, that they're shoving an idea down a throat, which I hate. I hate being told who my heroes are, because I already know who they are, and I think I should get to decide. But do you think that he did fulfill that role? Is that possible to say?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It seemed like we were about to go into a major depression, and I think he kind of stopped all that from happening. Right. The weird thing about liberals is sometimes I hate us because we're so critical of everything. Do you know what I mean? Republicans are great. They just if you put Satan in there, they go can't say anything bad about him. And it's well, he just killed a bunch of children. Well, maybe they deserve to die. But whatever. That's true. Able to. Sometimes, with my Trumpy friends, I'll just say, "Oh, he did this." It's well, that's okay. He did that, and it's yeah, he didn't do that. Oh, all right. He said this. It's well, that's what he said that. And it's he didn't say that.
But they're so ready to apologize and capitulate. It's just To bend over backwards.
Not critical. I mean, within a month of Obama being in office, all the people that went out and campaigned for him and supported him were already critical. It's like, we don't think you should invade Libya, or we don't think you should be flying drones around killing random people, or, it's like, we weren't uncritical of him, but the Republicans are just, they're just like, that's our guy. Okay, we're all with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. But, I read something the other day there, and I can't quote it verbatim, but Chris Hedges, the writer, wrote about, he believes that both parties have put us in the position we're in. Would you have any brief commentary on that? Because I know we could go on forever about that. Some people get... Sorry?
Both parties... I didn't understand.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Some people believe that both parties put us in the position we're in over the last, 15 years. Do you believe there's any truth in that?
Yeah, of course. They both... you have to you get a list of things you have to do. And the first things you have to do is take care of the people that gave you the money to run for office. So those guys are going to get taken care of by the Republicans, or they're going to get taken care of, by the Democrats in one way or the other. And we're pretty far down on the list,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I believe...
I don't even think we're on the Republicans list,
My problem with the Republicans are stay out of women's bodies, leave the gays alone, and we need more gun control. They're obvious things. They're just obvious things.
Yeah, but it's hard for people to relate to, like, somebody that lives in New York City if you live, like, on a farm in the middle of Illinois. You know what I mean? It's like you want to have a gun there because it's like if somebody gets all the way to your property, it's like that's your last line of defense, Okay. Now, I don't know why. I still think it's interesting that you want like a M16 with 1,000 rounds. Like, I don't know what the fuck you did. Are you pissed off? Maybe you deserve what's coming if you need to be armed like you're in a fucking little army. But no, but I mean, you can't have everybody in the East Village in New York City like walking around with guns,
Yeah.
But it makes more sense in very rural places.
For the record, I believe the Second Amendment should stay as it is. Is that controversial? Maybe not. But I do believe that we have to look at better gun control. I think it's an obvious thing. We've got a problem with it. So obvious.
Ones are thinking, it's like, well, when the Second Amendment was written, they didn't even have tanks yet. They didn't have flamethrowers. It's like, so what are we protecting? And I think the idea was that a community would have a militia where the guns were locked up, and that if their community got invaded, that they would, as a community, defend it. Which maybe that's the National Guard. I don't know. But no, I mean, it's like, but it doesn't really specify. And God, how would they know? That you could have a gun that could shoot 1,000 rounds in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well,
a hotel room and take out a whole concert if you wanted to. Or
imagine that you could time travel and you could go back with a load of guns, decent guns, and hand them to the Jews in the Holocaust, the Irish during air occupation of the British, or the blacks during slavery. That would be a great thing. So it's,
Yeah, no, Indians with M16s.
There you go.
And we would be Indians now, yeah.
I like the idea of that. Ron, before we finish, would you mind, you know the Proust questionnaire, Marcel Proust?
No,
Okay.
Sorry. I guess I didn't do my research, sorry.
No worries. Well, Marcel Proust is famous for being asked that back in the 1800s. He was the French writer that wrote Remembrance of Things Past. I can barely speak English. I won't attempt to pronounce it in French. So I narrowed it down to half of the original questions. And the idea is I ask you a question, first thing comes to mind, you give a snappy as quick answer. Doesn't matter what the answer is. Are you game for that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. First question.
My career, I remember that, yeah.
You what?
This is when I said I'm bigger than Jesus thing, and we're in I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness, creating things that can bring like your inner happiness to other people.
What is your most marked characteristic?
I think I like to work a lot, and I'm self-obsessed.
Oh. What do you consider your greatest achievement or achievements?
I think making it all the way through life to get onto your show, and believe me, it was a long, crazy journey. I made it. Yeah.
Well, you are very welcome. We may put this out. We'll have to look. It could take us a while, but
Yeah.
Okay. Which historical figure do you most identify with?
Oh, Charlie Brown.
Which living person do you most admire, and why do you admire me? Sorry.
I just like singers, and I like people that aren't afraid to get up on stage and, share the love, and I think it's good that we have carpenters and it's good we have engineers, but, I think the final pinnacle of our civilization is art and music.
I agree. Who are your heroes in real life?
In real life?
Yep.
Oh, God, I have different heroes for different reasons. I like people who put themselves on the line and give up like real things to do something for other people. So I would say like the guy Dred Scott, who kind of got famous for burning the flag on the steps of the Capitol. But at one point, when he was getting all that fame for, that attention for, making those kind of statements, he was also a computer programmer, and he was offered like $1 million some, and he's totally broke, to help design weapons for the military. And he told them to fuck themselves,
Nice.
and stayed broke for the next 15 years. It wasn't like there was, but I mean, I don't even know what I would say. I mean, if I was completely broke and had no prospects, and I had already designed some programs that they could use, and I don't know. I think I've never been put in that position. I don't know if a building was on fire, if I would run in and save a kid. I would like to think I would, but again, until it's put to you, until somebody puts that check on the table and you say, shove it up your ass, you don't know, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm broke. If I can design weapons for the military, but they'll fire backwards, but that's another story. Okay, what is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
That I don't say thank you to people enough.
Oh.
I just expect everybody to bust ass.
Okay. What is the trait you most deplore in others?
I think believing in mythologies to the point where it does damage to the earth and to society.
Excellent. What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
Overrated virtue? Pride.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Oh, I believe you, man.
What is your greatest regret?
My greatest regret? Probably, this is kind of a weird one, but I kind of regret not coming to New York earlier. I kind of stalled out in Texas for a couple of years and went to graduate school. So I think I would have, I wish I was more a part of that East Village scene. That I was a part of the tail end of it, but I always kind of wish I would have got to New York and started my life there a lot earlier. But I had no idea how cool New York was compared to Texas, or do you know what I mean? I didn't know that I was stuck in some weird conservative thing, and I didn't know what liberalism was until I got to the East Coast, and then my whole life changed. So yeah.
Right. My regret was not coming to America quicker.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Okay. What is your current state of mind?
I'm kind of enjoying being lonely and having time with myself. I think for the last 10 years, I've been on the road maybe half the time and going, and really, it wasn't until the whole rug got pulled out that I realized how crazy that my life actually was.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about your family, what would it be? Be careful.
If I could change one thing about my family? I don't know. I like them a lot. I don't know. I can't think of anything I'd want to change. Okay. I think I like them to get out of this pandemic shit and get their own lives, but, I know my kids are stuck here with me, so it's very frustrating. They're not kids. They're in their 20s.
Yeah, we got two 20 and 30-year-olds at home. What is your most treasured possession?
My imagination.
Brilliant. What do you regard as
my biggest fear is getting whacked in the head, because you get in this shit. This is a gold mine, and it gives me stuff every day. But man, if some idiot just hit me in the head, it's like it would end the gold mine. It would collapse the gold mine.
Well, quickly, were you ever hit in the head as a kid?
No.
So this is not the results of being hit in the head.
Oh, but I can't watch boxing because I just think, wow, that dude just got brain damage. You know what I mean?
Ron, I want to say this real quick. What I think artists are, particularly geniuses like yourself, you and my friend Eric Starr, I consider a genius. You are infected with the parasite of genius. So that is a hell of a thing to carry around, and we could talk about that forever. But that's how I see what you are. You're infected with a parasite of genius. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. I think I just wired. If you just do something all the time, and that's what like I'm not going to say this the right way, but they asked Einstein, like, how did you come up with the theory of relativity? And he said, well. And again, this isn't, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, well, that's what I was thinking about.
Well, it's like the golfer said, the more I practice, the luckier I get.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, next, only about 5 questions left. What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
The lowest depth of misery? Death, I guess, right?
Yes, I thought you were going to say being on our show.
Oh, no, that's my peak, right?
Okay, so we don't even ask that question. Where would you like to live?
Oh, crap. I like the Hudson Valley where we're at now. We've talked about living in the south of France when we retire. That's really beautiful there. It's hard because you don't really experience somewhere when you're in your 20s and you're just bopping around on holiday, or just goofing off because you don't have a job. So it just seems like everything's fun. So what's it like when you actually have to be somewhere and work? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's too bad because this used to be the place. America used to be the place everybody wanted to come to now, and now we can't even dream of moving to Montreal because they won't let us out of the country.
Don't get me started. Okay, what is
There'll be riots in the streets. Americans will be banned from every country on the planet Earth. I think to fuck things up, but I don't think he's gonna fuck things up that bad, man. It's like, really? Come on. And then now it's just because he just every day he blew up something new to the point where like, wow, we can't even leave the country anymore. Wow, far out.
Half the time, Ron, I think, is he trying to just piss off the Democrats? Half the time I wonder.
No, he wants to I think when Manafort went to meet with Putin, he said you don't just have to be president, you can rule America for the rest of your life. And he gave him the playbook, and he's been that most of these things he's doing is just that was engineered by Putin, and sent to him through Manafort. So yeah, I don't think he had the ambitions, and I think he thought about this stuff, but I think sometimes you get all the green lights, and he just got all the green lights, and and he even knows, like, when they say don't say this, don't say that, it's like, fuck you, I'm doing great.
Yeah. Well,
they love me.
On November 4th, the 4th, it'll change. We know that. Okay, last couple of questions. What is the quality you most like in a woman?
I guess intelligence, yeah.
And what is the quality you most like in a man?
Lack of intelligence.
Well, you're in good company. Okay, second last question, and then we're going to wrap it up with the very last question. What are your favorite names?
My favorite names? I like Zephyr. That's what I named my daughter.
I love it. I was going to say that.
Not a lot of people, but my friend Constant, his son's named Zephyr, so it's becoming a vaguely common name now. But I like the name Mars because it's kind of like power and of another world. And
well, they're both Greek references. Isn't Zephyr the west or east wind in Greek mythology?
Yeah, and also yes, and also the famous one of the famous graffiti artists, and I was very into graffiti back in the day. So and it was either named her Zephyr or Crash.
Or Crash.
Crash.
Crash. Oh, Zephyr's a beautiful name, and I've met both of your kids briefly. Ron, the last question. Actually, sorry. What is your motto?
My motto? Let's see. Do what you do until they like it.
Oh, excellent. All right, and the last question, and then we're going to wrap up the show. And believe me, I could spend hours talking about stuff which I really could. What is America to you?
America is an idea, and it's the idea that people can have an equal shake at life, and and have opportunities and have freedom, and be able to be critical and really, because if you're not critical, you're just going to get shit, so what I mean. But I mean, everybody likes this country because so much creativity came out of this country because we were free, and and now I think so many people want to end that so badly and become totalitarian, and it's just depressing as fuck.
Yeah, and true patriotism is being able to stand up and say, I don't agree with the way this country is going. That's real patriotism.
Well, if you're an artist, you go to critiques, you just completely tear down each other's work, and you have to be able to handle that. You're not going to be great if just everything you make is great. It's like you get some kid and you go, that's great. It's like, well, they're not going to be great because you're not even challenging them. Yeah. And we become it's all great. You can't criticize America. It's all great. It's like, well, you just nixed our chances of being great or continuing to be great.
Well, isn't it that participation trophy culture that developed in the last 20 years?
Yeah. And Donald Trump is the shining example. Okay, so you got $70 million by the time you're 17 years old. People clean up all your messes, and and basically all you have to do is go through life and only lose $1 million a month, and you'll be fine. Yeah. And then you start thinking he's fucking genius because he he's still left with half his father's fortune. He only blew half of it, so he must be a genius, you know?
Well, as Ricky Gervais said, you know, Ricky Gervais, a genius comedian, somebody said to him, you know, you're out of touch, man. You're out of touch. And he says, you know, the next time somebody says that to me, I'm going to say, no, I'm not. Here's $1,000. Fuck off and get me a pint of milk.
Yeah.
So, Ron, I'll let you have the last word. Anything you want to say, and then we'll wrap the show up.
Okay, well, the name of the band is The Rabbits, and it's Rabbits with 3 B's, and it's on Spotify and iTunes, and Derek plays the old buzzard. And I think it's the most amazing thing I've ever been involved with, and I can't seem to get anybody to even listen to a song. You know, it's crazy. So, like, I don't know. I painted the Sistine Chapel, but people won't look up from their phones.
Yeah, I hear you, man. We could do a whole show on that because I've lived that since I was 14 and I'm 22 right now.
But yeah,
Sorry.
I I got the experience of, like working with you was amazing. All these amazing, great singers. It's like that was kind of like me and Joe's thing. It's like, let's just get fucking great singers, you know? So, like my friend Chris Dorita says, it's like, if the singer's good, if the rest of the band sucks, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
And it's usually the other way around. I have found growing up that the singers aren't that great. And again, we could talk about that forever. Ron, I can't thank you enough. And from Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Right. And you're going to auto-tune my voice, right?
I'm going to put a Marilyn Monroe face and some Mickey Mouse boobs on you.
That'll work, yeah.
Right.
That's a visual version of auto-tunes, right? Cool.
Ron, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough.
Cool.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you. Okay, well, I tell you, that was just great. I love that guy. I love his art. I love his attitude. I love his honesty. So I'm just delighted with the show. Okay, so our next show is coming up in the next few days. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but we'll get to that. Before we leave, once again, please subscribe to our channel, What is America to You, and give us a like. And please comment in the comment section below. But if you comment, and there's a lot of stuff to comment on there, I think there was a bit of controversy thrown in, be respectful. You don't need to be an asshole. Okay, from me and Jessica on the wrong side of the camera, one day we'll get her around here. When she gets all the technical stuff right, she can step around here and I'll just make tea. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Well, yeah, or we get you. I get a Jessica.
Sure.
I'm gonna get a Jessica mask. Okay, guys, thank you. Thanks for tuning in to What is America to You. Until the next show, goodbye for now.
Driving along, minding my own business, heading east through the Kentucky rain. There on the radio, Johnny Cash was singing. I hurt myself just to see if I still feel pain.